testosterone cypionate, syringes, mixing syringes, tiny syringes, ipamorelin CJC 1295, 4 of those, right? HCG. So what was all that and why am I showing it to you? Well, I ordered those things through an online wellness company, the ones who do the consultations, run your blood work. An in-house phlebotomist comes to your house, draws that for you. The lab work goes to this company. And then they make recommendations. So I think during the process of this, their wellness specialist, as you can tell, I don't recommend this company that I used. They would go through, everything that could be of benefit to you. Now, in theory, sounds great. This particular company did not actually have you working with their doctors. It was just some random quote-unquote health coach who was nowhere near qualified enough to actually give recommendations. They would just print out everything under the sun to give you. Luckily, I reached out to some friends and people in the industry who are more familiar with these compounds to get their recommendations on certain things that I was going through. So I already had in my head what I wanted to do, and I completely disregarded what they were recommending through that blood work. But it was like $7,000 worth of stuff. I think it lasts like 4 or 5 months depending on the dosage. But I ended up with those 3 things. So testosterone, obviously artificial testosterone being supplemented and injected. CJC 1295 ipamorelin, which is a peptide, which I was very intrigued with at the time. This is when I was starting to really do some research into those. Supposed to be a little more, I don't know what the right word is, but a little less permanent, I would say, than taking testosterone. Testosterone replacement therapy, hormone replacement therapy tends to be more permanent because your body then relies on the exogenous hormone rather than producing it on its own. So it kind of shuts down those things. Whereas the peptides are supposed to allow your body to ramp up production of certain things. So that compound peptide, CJC 1295 and ipamorelin, was essentially an HGH natural booster. So it's supposed to be great for energy levels, boosting recovery, great for your skin, improving muscle tone, so body composition. And then the HCG was something that I was taking because we were still trying to get pregnant. So that actually keeps your testes, has them continue producing testosterone. So if you were just to take testosterone on its own, it basically nukes your sperm count. Your balls stop doing all the work, and they rely on the exogenous form of that coming into your body. So HCG is a good way to continue getting your body to produce some on its own. So it's a little bit easier to scale off if you do decide to do so in the future. I obviously am not taking these things. You guys saw the vials, or you saw the packaging of those. I ended up doing 3 testosterone injections and maybe a half dozen, I don't even think I got to a half dozen injections of the peptide. At that point, so about a week and a half in, my resting heart rate would stay elevated. So it wasn't anything crazy, wasn't having a heart attack, high blood pressure wasn't any more significant, but it was just it was slightly uncomfortable all the time. So my resting heart rate was consistently 10 beats per minute higher than it usually was. First couple days wasn't as concerning, but we got into a week and a half, started reaching back out to those friends in the industry and was told your sympathetic nervous system can become a bit more dominant. So that was something that I kind of expected to have. If there was any adverse side effect, I expected to be able to obtain that for myself. That's just kind of how things go with me and supplements. But the reason I started this journey, this process, and doing the blood work to begin with is because I was at the point where energy levels were still insanely low. I had healed, Barrett's had not come back, has not come back. But energy levels, mood, these things, after a couple of years still have not gotten back to normal levels. So I was willing to do anything. I had heard a lot of very, very good things about peptides in particular, very minimal side effects. And again, you don't have to rely on those for the longer term as you would testosterone. Now, what I was told and what I felt, testosterone is a more significant bump in those things, but again, you're reliant on that essentially for the rest of your life. Once you really start a protocol, most people don't come off of that protocol. So I was reluctant to do so, but where I was at, I was really willing to try just about anything to feel better, to be there for my family more, to just be a better parent. And it wasn't that I was taking these things to, boost my fitness rep. I was pretty content with, physique overall. It was just how I felt. Biofeedback was still very atrocious. And the only thing we could identify in blood work, because metabolically everything was fine, there were no deficiencies, micronutrient-wise. My one thing has always been borderline low testosterone. So for everything I do, for as much as I focus on sleep, as much as I focus on recovery, I balance training very well, I eat very well, my numbers should have been a lot higher in my mind in regards to testosterone, free testosterone, and total testosterone, both of those coming in on the lower side. So upper 4s, lower 5s usually was the number that I would get. So that was the direction I also wanted to take. I jumped in with the testosterone on top of the peptide just to kind of, let everything run its course, see how I felt. And to be honest with you, for the first few days, I felt great. It served its purpose. I got to where I wanted to be in a very short period of time as far as, recovery and energy and mood improving. They talk about motivation and drive. That is absolutely the case when you're taking something like testosterone. That absolutely goes up, and I felt very good. Up until the point where one night I did my peptide injection, and I don't know if I had some anxiety that night or what was going on. Heart rate came up a bit, and it never went down. And that peptide is also fantastic for sleep. Those who take that, or the other variation with testosterone, notice, if you're tracking your sleep scores, fantastic sleep scores after taking that. But I had a disrupted night of sleep. My heart rate stayed up pretty high, and it didn't come down for a week and a half. And it got to the point where, I was waiting for something to happen or for this to go away. I was trying to ride it out. Nothing really happened. So I went for a long run, tried to induce an event if something was going to happen, still didn't improve or get worse. So I ended up just going in, I think, by like day 11. I went into the ER, had them run an EKG. This was in the midst of, I don't know if it was COVID. I don't think it was COVID. There was some outbreak where hospitals they were swamped again. So it was a ridiculous wait time. Some people in the ER were waiting for 7 hours. I had gone through triage. I wasn't having a heart attack. So I checked myself out. I said, you know what, I'm not dying. I'm going to leave. They said it's against medical advice, had to sign a waiver, and I left. I think by like 2.5 weeks, everything kind of settled back down. And I was under the assumption that it was the peptide that triggered that. So after everything calmed back down, I tried to get back on the testosterone. And I think at that point, I was just so worked up from what had happened last time that I triggered another panic attack. And that started me in the same cycle. I went another week and a half. Same exact thing happened, wrote it out and said, all right, I'm done. Now, all that is not to say that I'm against peptides, that I'm against, testosterone or the testosterone HCG combination for those trying to stay fertile. I think they work great. I think I had a bad, a side effect with everything I had going on. But point of this video, where I'm kind of coming full circle, I have kept those in my cabinet this entire time. Now, I ended up spending about, I think, $2,700 on that. I took 3 injections, so did not get my money's worth, obviously. But I never threw them away. I think in the back of my mind, I wanted those there as a safety net. If things start to tank again, I have those there. I can try round 3. Let's see what happens. I'm throwing them away today. I am comfortable enough with where I'm at and how long I felt really, really good that I can dispose of those. Now, again, I'm not against those. Those are going to work great for a lot of people, and I don't think most people are going to deal with those adverse side effects. But another part of this is that I've always wanted to be self-reliant. If the world comes to an end and we don't have access to medical care, and worst case scenario, apocalyptic scenario, can I survive on my own? That's something I've always wanted to build myself up towards since dealing with Barrett's esophagus, dealing with that anxiety of wondering what's going to happen next. What if I can't get to the hospital? What if? Being able to rebuild myself, to not have to worry about those things, and to be completely confident in my ability to survive on my own. That's something I've taken a lot of pride in and worked very hard to get to. So once all that calmed down, I kind of went back to the drawing board, ended up getting some gut testing done through the PA we use with SD Evolution, Danielle Kepix. She had me do a GI map. We discovered minimal bacterial overgrowth in regards to SIBO, but likely a couple parasites were getting flagged on that, so we treated those. Rebuilt myself through a kill phase, a rebuild phase for rebuilding the good gut bacteria, and then a maintenance phase, recovery phase. Once I got through all that, energy levels kind of tanked a bit, but as I've rebuilt myself and I think continued to build up that gut, the good microbiota, the good diversity, I really felt like myself again, and I haven't fallen off the cliff to this point, which is exciting to say. All of that has played a huge role in everything else that I've been doing. So the SDE Method app, the SDE Method itself, we encompass training, nutrition, mindset, movement, and habits. That's something I have followed religiously for the last decade. That has all built my foundation. I think getting my gut health back has really put me back over the top. And it just goes to show that, it can take a really, really long time to get yourself to heal. And I thought that I had healed and I was just going to be stuck with chronic fatigue for a long time. But if you feel that bad, there's usually something continuing to go on. For me, maybe it was those parasites. Maybe I just needed a little more time to heal and to, just focus on my recovery and just continue to stay the course. Whatever it was, I am now at a point where I feel really, really good. So it just goes to show you that, no matter what the doctors say in regards to, you're going to have to manage this for the rest of your life. It's not going to be something you're going to overcome. We just want to focus on getting it worse, on not getting worse, which is what I was told. You can promote healing. You can do certain things and figure out what works well for your body. Take notes on it all. What makes your symptoms worse? What makes them better in regards to not only food, but activity, sleep. I need 8 hours of sleep every single night, or I do feel pretty bad. So just the little things, making sure the little things are in line. And then in regards to your diet specifically, how much of that stuff is processed? Are you focused on nutrient-dense whole foods? Are you adding a bunch of, processed shit that you don't even realize? You grab the back of look at the nutrition label on the back of whatever you're eating, you see a lot of shit in there that you didn't even realize. Why would you add sugar to fruit? Well, some dried fruit has sugar added to it. So there's a lot going on. It's all about not only trial and error, as I mentioned, but just paying attention, staying aware, and creating changes through the awareness. Noticing trends, understanding why those things are happening, and continuing to move forward. So today's a big day. We're going to toss those out, and we are going to continue on this path of healing.